what would you prefer, this one or this one?
Well, I've used both. Both are
Do you?
both are high quality for sure. Like they're well built. From my experience, I find the C8 or C7 variant is a little bit more accurate and it's more controllable for the user because it's a smaller round. So I find the 7.62 AK-47 it can be accurate at certain ranges for sure, depending on the age of that platform. It's reliable for sure. It'll take a beating and keep going. But from multiple round applications, so 3, 4, 5 round applications, it's more of a gun to manage from a recoil position perspective. So if I was going back to war, going back into war, and someone said, "Here, take an AK-47 or take a C8," I would take a C8. Now, I will say though, Uri, I'm a little bit biased because that's what I grew up on, and that's what I know very well. However, it's a great platform. The quality of ammunition has advanced over the last 10 years. So, you know, you can get a high quality ammunition where you'll be effective with that platform out to 400 yards. So, with confidence. So I would take the C8 variant. Are you guys getting those or have you gotten them?
That's the question because I know a couple units in Ukraine which now get especially C7A1 variant. So please tell me, are Colt Canada making a new age era R platform or it's Vietnam era crap? What did we got? Because this weapon, like this, it's an aerosoft copy. I just took for showing some things, but what about the quality of this weapon? Because I know that you, for your personal, you choose Colt Canada carbine. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So I have a couple of variations of carbines. So they're all 5.56, NATO 5.56, or chamber for 223 as well. So I have a Zev Technologies core platform, Colt Canada MRR platform, and then I also have a American Tactical Hybrid. They're all very similar the way they function. The Colt Canada is a proven platform, and the MRR, they did a really good job of redesigning the modern C8 variation. So depending on what size barrel you guys go with, the one I'm running is a 11.6 inch barrel. I know the C7A1 comes standard with I believe it's a 16 inch barrel, but you have options. So you have options either go longer, so an 18 inch barrel, or shorter. You could do 11.5, 11.6, or a 14 inch barrel. If you could, because money is always a factor. If you had to go with one, I would say go with the 11.6 inch barrel, only because I should say, let me caveat that. I should say, if your main purpose is CQB, so anything urban ops, then I would say 11.6 inch barrel. If a portion of your general fighting operations are in a urban confined space, internal combat perspective, 11.6 inch barrel will give you, good reach, 200, 300 meters, no problem. But if you're sometimes in a rural setting where you need that longer reach, then I would say go with a longer barrel, maybe the 16 inch barrel or 14 inch barrel. There's been some ballistic studies that suggest there's not much difference between the 14 inch barrel and the 11.6 inch barrel. So, if it comes down to money and you can only purchase one barrel, I would say, all right, what do you need it for? And if you need the ability to be urban, but also a rural, then maybe go with the longer barrel.
We call it black and green operations. Black are more in urban area and green is more in the field. First, my question was about the length of the barrel, and to the pair of this question about the ammo, about the weight of ammo and velocity of weight of bullet and velocity of bullet. What would you say? What do you prefer, 66 grain or 77 or something middle?
Yes, anything with 62 grain, 65, 67 grain is going to give you very similar projection in flight and ballistic capability. The heavier the weight or the heavier the load, the thought is you're going to get more reach. And yes, there are some ballistic technical specs that support that. But if you have a heavyweight bullet with a short barrel, you're going to be limited, because the moment that the bullet leaves the barrel, there's a little bit of a climbing phase, right? And then as it flattens out, well, the length of the barrel is going to give you that flatter trajectory for longer. That's why I'm saying if you're shooting at farther ranges, you have a 77 grain bullet for a 5.56 chambered firearm, then yeah, a little bit longer of a barrel, it's going to give you longer reach. So
okay. Anything between, yeah. Okay, so the next question, it may be the main question, because number one function, number one capability for a real fighting weapon is reliability. Because if it's unreliable, you couldn't take the thing. And with this one, we know we have now very wide statistics of malfunctions. What could be bad with this type of rifles? We have dirt, we have a very intensive fire, and we have all types of malfunctions, and even our bases, basic courses, we now have a couple of trainings, different trainings with this one. What about this one? What do you see or you hear about the stoppages especially now we're talking more about Canadian, but we have different guys. First of all, we have our own company, Ukrainian, who product air platform weapon. And we have a lot of guys who buy themselves like hunting carabines, M-series carabines, and now use them as a personal weapon into the war. So what you gonna say about stoppages, problems with this weapon?
Yeah, the C8 is very reliable. You're not going to get a lot of stoppages. Normal care and cleaning after every use will keep that gun running for quite some time. And parts will break down just like a car, like over time, brakes wear out on a vehicle. Just like a firearm, there are pieces and parts that will wear over time. So although both the AK-47 and variations of the C8 will have a fully automatic selector switch option, that's just a selling feature. Those guns are assault rifles. They are not designed to be fired automatic, fully automatic. Can you? Yes. But the more you fire those guns fully automatic, the more wear and tear on the parts and pieces, and you're going to burn the barrel out. So when that stuff starts to break down, then you're going to encounter stoppages. Also, malfunctions are sometimes caused by the magazine. If the magazine is not cared for properly, or it's beat up and the feed lips are bent and all that good stuff, you're going to have more and more stoppages. So from my experience, I've had way more problems and stoppages with an AK-47 than I've had with a C8 variant. So from a reliability perspective, I'm not a spokesman for Colt Canada, but I endorse their gear and I run it for that reason. It's reliable.
What problem you hear most often with IRC-7 platform weapon? It's double jammed. It's okay.
Yeah, so with the C7 variant, not a lot of problems, generally speaking, whether it's cold weather, -30, hot weather, dusty, dirty, not a lot of problems, generally speaking. When issues do start to present themselves, it could be anything from a faulty extractor or ejector. It could be a problem with the magazine feed lips. It could be a variation of problems. it's not common is all I'm saying. Like, yes, it will happen. And, you know, from time to time, pieces and parts of the bolt will have to be replaced. You know, recoil spring assemblies will have to be replaced, but generally speaking, those things will take a shit kicking and keep going, you know, like 5,000 rounds before you need to do a routine maintenance check on average, right? Depending on the environment that they're being operated in. So when it's really cold out, common mistake that guys will do is they'll soak the gun down with oil. Well, in cold climate weather temperatures, you know, we want to think about using maybe a graphite or less oil on the gun. In, you know, dusty, dirty environments, yes, we want to keep the bolt oiled up, but again, we think about dust and dirt and grime collecting on the oil, then it's going to cause stoppages. So, you know, routine care and cleaning before and after every shooting, you won't have a lot of problems.
Okay. About mags, quality, mag pull or something else, and one more question. One technical, how it make properly. I insert and or I insert and pull. Which technique you prefer? And third one, I hear that you need to load so much cartridges, and you could pull the tip of your big farm, and it's normal for the cargo.
Yeah.
So what you
Great question. So I'll answer the quality of magazines first. So aluminum magazines, they're good for sure. The feed lips will tend to get bent and damaged over time just from being dropped on the ground. The Magpul magazines are great. The Gen 2 Magpul mags are nice because there's a piece on the magazine. It's like a small little indent where it's great for inserting the magazine because you have a reference point of feel on the magazine. So the mod, Gen 3s will have an extended piece on the magazine. The mod 2 or Gen 2 are smooth. Why I mention that is because depending on the magazine carrier, the Gen 3s will sit into a magazine carrier a little bit different than the Gen 2s. The Gen 2 Magpul are a little bit slimmer. So the pros and cons to that are when you look at the magazine, you'll feel on the spine of the magazine, there's a little bit of an indent for the Gen 3s. Good for tactile feel when it's dark, but not really necessary. But they're reliable magazines. When I load up my magazines, for example, when I was operational, even though it's a 30-round magazine capacity, I would only load it up to 28. And I would give the magazine follower just a little bit of spring tension. That way, when we do load the magazine into the magazine well, there's less tension on the follower of the magazine, which means you're going to get a fully seated magazine with a little bit more proficiency. So, you know, not loading the magazines up to full capacity is a good idea. So the technique that you just showed, I call this the beer can technique, where you get a good grip on the magazine. And when we look at the magazine, well, rather than looking at the magazine to load, we want to insert the magazine with force. But to add a tap on the bottom of the magazine is just adding more movement that's not necessarily required. So when we cant the magazine well and we look at the magazine well rather than the magazine to load the gun, you're going to have more efficient reloads, more efficient loads, as opposed to looking at the magazine and then sometimes missing the magazine well. Right, so getting a good grip on the magazine, like a beer can, you know, loading the magazine here, being forceful rather than loading the magazine and then tapping the bottom. It's just an added step that's not required.
Okay, thanks. And another with this additional question, when you, maybe I spoke something wrong, but in our we always looking on the danger teaching, and then are you using charging chair handle or you using slide stopper?
Yeah, using the charging handle. Charging handle is more gross motor, and when we put the gun into our shoulder, so we've loaded the gun, put the gun into our shoulder. Yeah, when we grab onto the charging handle, that helps seat the gun into the shoulder. Right. So as we're looking over top of the gun, looking at the danger area, the threat area, the gun is in the upright position. As we charge the gun, this will help seat the buttstock into the shoulder where you want it to be. So I prefer to use the charging handle over the bolt catch. And the bolt catch, because the bolt catch is smaller, sometimes people get into the habit of smacking the gun. Well, then what happens is
Vietnam style slap.
Slap it. And then next thing you know, the muzzle is off the target area where we're interested in. So I prefer, me personally, I prefer the charging handle or a bad lever. I like the bad lever, but that's an added expense. Some services, some organizations don't like it. They feel like it's a bit of a safety concern. So if that's not even on the table, don't worry about it. Charging handle over the bolt catch release.
Okay, thanks. And another question about zeroing. Because of different barrel lengths and different ammo, we have difference about 200 meters per second from started from the barrel. So how do you zero such difference? Because if we zero it on only on to 25 meters, we have different battle direction between two zeros. Yeah, inner and outer zeros.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I like to zero my guns at 50 meters. So 50-meter point of aim, point of impact. So if this is my target area at 50 meters, I want my bullets to be within a 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah, so point of aim, point of impact at 50 meters. And the reason for that is anything inside of 50 meters, when we calculate our holds, so inside 50 meters, wherever the red dot is of my sight, right, I'm going to put that a little bit higher than the point of impact because we have to consider barrel sight relationship. So 50-meter point of aim, point of impact out. So inside 50 meters out to 300 meters, the drop deviation is about 2 hands. So that's still, you know, a head size. So at 300 meters, we're going to aim a little bit lower, or sorry, yeah, a little bit lower. And at anything inside 50 meters, we're going to aim just a little bit higher. So if I want to put a bullet right between a man's eyes at inside of 50 meters, I'm going to aim about the hairline. So think CQB. So CQB distances, you know, we're at 15, 20 feet maybe. So I put the red dot somewhere on the hairline, and then we're going to get shot placement right into the CPU. Now at 300 meters, for example, you put that red dot somewhere in the upper thoracic cavity, and you're going to get a desired effect. So the deviation drop is about 2 hands, we'll say. So 50-meter point of impact, point of aim, point of impact 0 is going to give you less hold calculation, so less margin of error from inside 50 meters out to 300.
It's for you and for style carbine or for full length?
Any length of the barrel.
Anything, yeah. Just with a longer barrel, you have wider efficiency.
Correct.
Okay, I understand. But if as I read, the classical army zeroing is 25 meters.
Yeah. So it's not it's not wrong to zero at 25 meters. I prefer 50 meters for that, for the reason of longer range shooting. So if most of your shooting is urban and CQB setting, then sure, there's nothing wrong with a point of aim, point of impact 0 at 25 meters. There's nothing wrong with that. Just know that the margins of error in your hold off calculations for longer ranges are going to be greater. So there's more guessing, which is, you know, under stress and duress. I prefer not to try to guess, but know what my bullet's going to do.
Another question about adding, for example, red dots and other stuff. It's so, as I understand it, the closer this sight line with sight line of classical iron sight is better. Yeah.
Yeah, like the iron sights from a visual acuity perspective are a little bit more challenging to pick up. And then when you consider, you know, nighttime or inclement weather, having a red dot is obviously a little bit more proficient to pick up and a little bit more optimal to pick up with the eye. So yes, I would prefer a red dot over iron sights for sure. But with new shooters, I think it's really wise to have them understand how iron sights work. So if that red dot fails, they have a set of backup iron sights that they have confidence in.
We have another consideration about that. So on the war, if you, for example, your weapon could broken by mortar or something else, you could just pick up the assault rifle of another, maybe wounded, maybe dead comrade, and you could shoot from them. Another question, are scopes might be lower as possible, because if it's higher, this curvature, you could, when you adjust it zero, you lose some trajectory which is higher, lower than your sight, you lose this one. So you prefer the red dots with magnifier or without them? And what you could say about
if you have the option to add a magnifier, for sure. So maybe a 3-time magnifier or 5-time magnifier, that you have the ability to flip it out of the way when you're not using it. That's great. That's a great option for sure. That way, when you do get those added reaches that you're required, just flip that in place, and then you have a little bit more clarity. So yeah, that's a good option for sure. If money is not an issue and you have the opportunity to equip every firearm with a front and a rear sight iron sights, so something that can flip up, right? And then your red dot with a magnifier. I don't really see an added benefit to add elevation to the red dot, because when we're thinking about shooting around obstacles, we have to consider barrel sight relationship, and that height over bore. The higher that we put the red dot, the argument is under night vision or acquiring a sight quicker, we have that elevation. Yes, I understand the theory to that, but I'm not convinced that that's the best course of action, given the fact that we're trying to keep as best as possible everything slimline and compact as best as possible. When we start to elevate a red dot higher on a different platform, we run the risk of getting that stuff caught up on things, but also when we're shooting around obstacles, the angle of our body in relation to the firearm, we need to consider a larger height over bore consideration.
Or shooting through the little hole, you also need a very low profile sight. Right. I even see in, for special forces who use helmet with plastic, now how it's named, plastic
like a face shield
barrier. They have curved stock who make possibility to take your weapon with this coverage.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And what would you say about Elcan classic Canadian sight to position, I believe? Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's not great. What I do like about it is it's pretty resilient. Like it'll perform for you whether it's plus 40 hot and sunny or minus 30 cold and snowy. It'll perform well for you. But yeah, like the size of it in relation to what benefit you get for the distance, it's okay. I wouldn't invest in it, but if it was provided for me, I would be okay. I'd be comfortable using it. It's just there's better stuff.
So if I had choose for a field fight preferable, and I have, for example, some red dot, quality red dot, and Elcan, I rather choose Elcan because of magnification. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to give you a little magnification. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, and he has two modes: higher, bigger magnification and lower magnification. Yeah.
I believe so. Don't quote me, Yuri, but I believe so. The newer versions, the more modern versions, you have two settings, if I'm not mistaken. One is for urban CQB setting, and one is for at distance. So,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
I asked you so precisely because one of our unit now have an option. They could have a quality red dot or have an outcome with C7A1. So it's more for longer distances. So what would you say if, for example, I get this weapon? Yeah, I haven't. I say to truth to you, more of our guys don't know English language. So when they got this weapon, they couldn't read any manuals about what you could to do. First, you're doing this weapon. What I need to check and what I need to loop them to what I need to do with them.
Yeah. So pick that gun up out of the box or however it's delivered to you. Get all the guys to pull the barrels through. So any gunk or debris that might be in there, pull the barrels through, put a light coat of oil onto a swab, pull that through a few times, and then take the bolt carrier group apart and then separate the bolt from the carrier group. Everything that looks like it moves or that it moves, add a little bit of oil to it, right? Just a light coat of oil to everything. So clean it up. Any gunk and debris that you see on top of the bolt face, clean all that stuff out of there. And then inside the chamber is key. So inside the chamber, because it's a rotating bolt, inside the chamber is where a lot of debris gets collected. So clean all of that really well, and you should have no issues. A little bit of oil on the charging handle on the inside of the upper receiver, a little bit of oil on that as well. You should have no issues. Now, when your service and your soldiers are right now in the process of receiving the C7A1, where's it coming from? Who's delivering that to you guys? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. So Canadians are going to provide you with the C7A1. Yeah, roger that. Well, that stuff should come with a manual, and if it doesn't, it's so easy to find online. So like, your armors, your gun armors will be able to take that thing apart. They'll understand it inside out. So when the soldiers get it, they should be able to receive some sort of instruction on normal care and cleaning above and beyond what I just gave you. But the reality is, if Canada is giving you these guns, they will most likely give you the manuals with it.
Randy, maybe you didn't really understand in the type of this war. You have a people who first time catch a weapon, and after 3 weeks of training, they be at the war. So yeah, we understand it all the thing, and but it's sometimes it's very strange because your armor could be in one city and your unit could be over 200-300 kilometers of there, and it's okay. But thank you for that answering. And one more question. You're saying that for reliability is very very bad to shoot by in auto regime, auto law. When you training your unit in army, in special forces, are you using mostly single shots, or you have some training tips, some drills with auto fire mode?
So is your question about volume of fire?
About how did you have, for example, with AK, the main regime of shooting are in automatic mode. You need to shoot by couple times. For now, for our structure of training, you shoot with single shots only for precision shot. In other situation, you need to shoot short burst or longer automatic things?
No,
What are conception for this vehicle?
yeah, single shot. So, you know, being quick with the trigger finger as opposed to automatic. They're, and like we talked about earlier, it's an assault rifle. It's not designed to be a platoon support weapon that is fired in an automatic setting. It's just it's not designed that way. It's a selling feature. I get the companies put it in there, and you know, when people see it, like, yeah, I got an automatic safety selector. So you got safety, repetition, or automatic. And you're talking about putting these firearms in somebody with very little experience and understanding body position and how to manage the recoil. Now you're going to put it into their shoulder and tell them to shoot automatic. You're not going to have a lot of, you're not going to have a lot of accuracy, and also you're going to put a lot of people in danger. So I would say, you know, being quick with the trigger when it needs to be, well placed shots are way more effective and more valuable than multiple shots fired. So I'll say that again. Well aimed shots are way more valuable than multiple shots fired. So you could be firing automatic, but if 10 of those rounds are not even coming close to the target, then you're just wasting ammunition. So I would say train the soldiers to shoot in repetition, and through training and through time, the trigger finger will become as quick as a fully automatic platform, but with better control of recoil.
Okay, thanks. If, by the way, maybe some of our next conversations, I'd like to show you our training tips and what you wanna say about that, and maybe you have some thoughts about how we make our training process.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you want, we can schedule something in the future where we can connect, and I can show you a couple things on the range. Like I can show you like different things
Okay,
that we
okay,
manipulate.
okay, okay. So another maybe in this format. So when I ask you what I think is most important for us, so you know my question are ended.
Right on. Well, Uri, what I would say is, whatever platform you're putting into the hands of a new soldier, get them to build confidence with taking the gun apart, putting the gun back together, taking the pieces and components of the bolt carrier group apart so they know what they're looking at and they know what to look for. If something is not working properly, they can troubleshoot it themselves with very few tools. You know, normal wear and tear parts that will start to degrade over time are extractors, firing pin, ejectors, anything that's got a spring tension component to it. Those are the pieces that generally will wear over time. The barrel itself, if you want the barrel to last longer, stay away from, or at least minimize how much automatic fire you're shooting through an assault rifle.
Okay, thanks. Why I ask you, because some guys have problems, and I divide it on three, because different weapon, different max, and different loads, and they not capable together working well in some cases. So you could have, for example, IR platform weapon from one, not exactly same good magazine, and even not close good ammo, and you have some gems, some stoppages. With AK, we haven't solved problems with functionality, but I would say it's more problems with the ability of hitting target, because too widespreading series of shots, it's not generally bad for a real combat situation, because it doesn't matter where you place your shot into the enemy on 300 meters. But sometimes it's making a little problem
Yeah.
for using our weapon.
Yeah.
And again,
Definitely reliability is going to have a factor on confidence. So if a platform is not reliable, the user won't have a lot of confidence in it. So once you figure out what platform you're going to go with and what magazines work well with that platform, then obviously you're trying to keep that together. But at the end of the day, Uri, you know as well as I do, it's invaluable the level of training that one receives. So
Yeah.
it always comes down to training. So you only have a couple of hours to train a day. During those hours, we want to be deliberate with the training deliverables. Be very deliberate. So we're not just standing in front of a target and blasting holes into it with no real context to why we're doing what we're doing.
It's a funny moment. Once my unit get a machine gun, 1945 year of making, Degtyaryov machine gun, and this whole thing this machine gun shoot when he wants to shoot and don't shoot when he don't want, and he doesn't mean what you want. So if you pull the trigger, and if he want to shoot, okay, he shoot with you. You pull out the trigger, and if he want, he stop. But if he doesn't want, he shoot or 47 cartridges from his magazine. It's terrible weapon, so unreliable. So we even doesn't use him at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I totally agree with you that training is the main thing with any type of weapon, any type of equipment. So okay, thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you for answering our question, and thanks from all Ukrainian to all Canadian who giving our such great help with weapon, with humanitarian stuff, with all the things. We are very appreciate. And
Uri, I'm happy to help you out a little bit as best as I can. Hopefully it's value added. I find it really interesting what's going on. I mean, it's unfortunate what's happening with you and the Ukrainian folks. But I just, as a Canadian, I find it mind-boggling, and you may not even be aware of this. We have soldiers right here in Canada that don't have proper equipment to train on. They have, C9 machine guns that are broken and not functioning. And when we learn that firearms from Canada are being shipped to Ukraine to help out Ukrainians, to me, it's mind-boggling, where we have issues right here in Canada and soldiers don't have proper equipment to train on right here in Canada. But our government, for whatever reason, is giving that stuff away. And like, good for you and your folks, for sure. But as a Canadian, as you can imagine, like, yes, I am empathetic to what is going on in the Ukraine. However, I don't believe in it, and I feel like our government is letting our own people down. So good that you're being helped, but at the same time, like, I've got buddies and in the Canadian Armed Forces right now who literally are trying to teach new soldiers how to operate machine guns with broken guns. They're trying to teach firearms training with weapons that are they need to be mothballed. They should be out of the system and in with something new. So yeah, I know that's not a you problem. I just feel like it's worth sharing that, being a Canadian, it's I don't agree with it, to be completely honest.
I think our set example are good even for you, because as many people understanding that it could happen even in your country, what happened with us.
100%.
Maybe these people started to pushing their politics to making right decisions. And as we know from from knowledge from First World War, Second World War, when some plants started to produce weapon, they produce weapon for someone and for their own country. Because in our example, examples of, for example, Germans with H&K who just ruined their own weaponry machinery, and now they need to buy parts of their, for example, for machine guns from Pakistan. Germans buying weapon parts from Pakistan.
Right.
It terrible things, but now, fortunately from our example, maybe free world understanding what it's mean and what for, not only weapons but and soldiers.
Yeah.
Because it's very, for me it's very sad when I read comments under your video about training this policemen. It's totally crap, and I understand it why someone don't like cops in our country, because we have a bit bunch of problems with the policemen and society, but in your example, it's I totally understand what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know what it's like. Every institution, every profession, there's good people, there's good soldiers, there's good police officers doing good things for the greater good of our society. And then there's a few bad apples. And unfortunately, it's the bad apples that create a terrible reputation for the majority, which is unfortunate. So when people make comments, I don't get my head wrapped around the ridiculous comments, because oftentimes those comments come from people who have no idea and they have no experience. So I don't, whatever. People have the right to their opinion, which is fine. If you can substantiate if anyone could substantiate their why, if they have a legitimate pushback on something and they can explain why, you have my attention. But if somebody has a comment that is negative and it doesn't create anything good for anybody, I have no time for it. I won't give anyone any time of the day. So where I'm going with that is, you're always going to hear comments that are ridiculous, ludicrous, and then people that are educated and people who have some experience, if they present a question or a pushback, oftentimes there's an explanation to why. And then those are the people I'll have a conversation with. That's the way I look at it.
Okay, it's a good position, a good way of thinking. So anyway. Okay, thank you, sir. I don't want to bore more your time. Thank you for your answers, and I think we could meet again, and next time working maybe more about manipulations, about stance and other things.
Yep.
Again, it's only one opinion against another opinion, but who watching, maybe you're understanding that Randy's opinion, behind them GTF2 experience, and behind me, it's not only my opinion. I gather experience from all guys who now serving, my guys who know me in different places. So
yeah, I think that's a great approach, Uri, and we can definitely do something in the future, more firearms manipulation stuff to consider from a technical side. And I think you're bang on, and I agree with you. Like, it's an opinion, it's a way to do it. It's not the only way, it's just a way. What maybe separates me from some other people in the industry is I try real hard to connect with what equipment are you using, what are your capabilities, but most importantly, why are we doing what we're doing? And if the answer is, well, I saw it on YouTube, like, to me, that's not a why. You have to understand why we're doing what we're doing, and it has to make sense to the user. And if it doesn't, under stress, under duress, it's going to fall off the rails. And that's just my belief. People can disagree with that, but I have some legitimate experience to back it up.
Okay. So see you later. Be safe, be healthy.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Take care of yourself. You bet. We'll be in touch.